Hey everybody, how's it going? Hopefully Friday here. I hear the music play through Andy's microphone, so it looks like it's working for him. Hey everybody, how's it going? Hopefully Friday here. I hear the
Sounds like we've
music
got a
through Andy's
microphone,
so it looks like it's working for him. Hey everybody, how's it going? Hopefully Friday here. I hear the
Sounds like we've
music.
got a
I'm gonna mute Andy while he figures out his system audio going back into his microphone. Hopefully you guys are doing well. I see there's a few people watching on YouTube here, and we're also live on the Cerner Yammer group. So if you guys are watching live, let us know in the chat. I'll turn the chat overlay on. Let us know where you're watching from, and I'm going to turn Andy's microphone back on and see if we hear a loop or not. In the chat, I'll turn the chat. Yeah, I still hear myself back through. Sounds like your Rode software might be looping back your browser into the microphone channel. Hey, we got Chris watching from Iowa. Wow. Vins, is that how you pronounce it? From the Philippines? Man, what time is it over in the Philippines? I'm curious. It's got to be what? Probably like, gosh, it's 10 a.m. here. What is it, like probably midnight or something? Got Michigan, another one from Michigan. Welcome everybody. I'm glad that you're here. And if you're watching on Yammer, drop things in the chat, and I'll show that on the screen. We can do comments over there. 11 p.m. in the Philippines. Man, I wasn't that far off. That's awesome. All right, let's see if I'm looping back. I'm going to unmute Andy. All right, I don't hear myself. Hey, Andy, can you hear me? Awesome. Yes. All right, let's see if I'm looping back. Oh, man, when you unmuted, Andy. I hear myself again. All right, I don't hear myself. Hey, Andy, can you hear me? Awesome. Yes. All right. We're doing some virtual audio routing. Give me a thumbs up when you think you have it, Andy. So it's 5 p.m. in the Netherlands. Thanks for watching. Appreciate that. Thank you. I really like the screen layout too. We've got this is a Restream Studio is what we're using here. So I've got like different backgrounds. I can even do overlays. They added like a Halloween theme, I think. Like a fall theme overlay to it. We could do like some orange there. We could change the background. This even does moving backgrounds. Like I think that one's solid. Here's like a moving background. So we can do like motion. If it loads up, yeah, you get like some little animation going. But we like the team's purple here. All right. Let's see if Andy's figured out the audio animation going. Oh, but we like. Nope, hear myself again. Yes, the system audio's coming through. You might check your input on Restream and switch it from like the virtual input just to the straight mic, maybe. Okay, how's it going, Andy?
check 1 2 1 2.
No, I can't hear you at all. We were just talking to each other and it was working fine. I think it's because we didn't have any system audio playing and then we found out what was going on. Somebody watching from Florida this morning. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Hope you guys are having a good Friday. Yeah, the audio issue, I think, is both of us are using like virtual audio inputs. I use the Elgato Wave XLR. I just got it like a week ago. And my microphone's going through that. And it gives me like this virtual mixer, which is really cool. If I like bring up my screen, I'll show you what it looks like. But what's really cool is this gives me the ability to have my microphone on a channel. I can put like Spotify music or any application that I want. Let me turn off the chat overlay here so you can see a little bit bigger. But I can like play music through here, which I won't because I don't want to get like a copyright strike. I can do sound effects too. So I've got a button on my Stream Deck that plays like Super Mario sound effects. So I can hit this button. And I've got like a soundboard from Super Mario World that I can add to things like classes and stuff like that. So what Andy's using is a software called Rode Connect, and it works with the Rode microphones and does the same type of thing. We got like virtual channels, and it sounded like maybe his system audio was coming into the channel, but then it sounds like maybe if he's like monitoring his YouTube browser or something like that, the audio might be going back in if you've got like an edge source or something. Okay, how's it sound, Andy? You're unmuted in Restream.
Check, check. 1 2 1 2.
Are you still?
Are you able to hear me?
No, I can't hear you. I see your mouth moving.
Check, check. 1 2 1 2.
No. Let's check Microsoft Stream here. See how many people we got on. There's 4 people on stream.
1 2 1 2.
Hey, everybody from Cerner. Angel says it's very low. So I think they can hear you, but you're just really quiet, I guess. Maybe my headphones are too low too. Try talking again, bud.
Testing 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, I can't hear you at all, but I see like one green bar. Like your gain is too low.
How about now? Everything worked when we were talking prior to this thing beginning, and now nothing is working.
Yeah, nothing.
Check. 1 2 1 2.
No, I see one green bar registering, but yeah, I don't hear you through my headphones at all. I'm probably way louder to the people on the stream. How's my audio sound, everybody? Am I clipping or anything like that?
All right, how about now?
Oh, a little bit louder. Yeah, I heard you a little bit better. I think we might have found the right fader.
Testing 1 2 1 2.
Yep, that's a little bit louder. Now, I think you might be coming through my speaker. Let me switch to this. Okay, try talking again, bud.
1 2. Testing 1 2 1 2.
Oh, yeah, that's better. Cool.
That's so weird. Everything worked when we were starting this up, and
Yeah, this sounded fine.
And as soon as we went into the stream, it went to poo. So, well,
yeah, that happens. Yeah, we're
right.
figuring out our new gadgets, but hey, that's why we do this stuff. This is a good learning opportunity for us to test things out, try out new technology. It's a great excuse to try out things rather than for like a paying gig or something like that. And we can work out all the kinks, and then when you do your classes and webinars, that everything's dialed in just right. And we just get to take advantage of that to do tutorials and show people how to do cool new stuff in Teams.
Well, we're gonna run with this setup. We'll see how this goes.
Exactly. We can edit it all out in post, Chris says. That's what I was saying. Hey, yeah, we can't just trim it off. Although I'm inclined to always like leave this type of stuff in there because not everything's perfect. Not everything works out all the time.
Adds to the authenticity.
Exactly. So thank you for the kudos for staying calm. Town hall. It's like, who cares if we're messing around with audio for like a minute or two?
Hey, this is a deep dive. So this is deep dive into troubleshooting for audio issues.
Yeah. I do not want to do a stream on virtual audio routing though. I can imagine it'd be like the most boring thing to watch. Like, hey, you want to watch a guy just like like come to the limits of his blood pressure live on YouTube. All
Like
right. Well, how's it going,
Angel's
man?
comment, maybe leave and
Yeah.
rejoin. But no, things are good. Another busy week, full of training and workshops and everything in between. Have you
Yeah. Do you
been?
have a lot of classes you taught today or this week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thursdays are Teams Thursdays, so it's just webinars and workshops all day long. We had our Charlotte area SharePoint user group last night, so that was
Hmm.
an hour and a half with Jeff Abels from C5 Insight talking about permissions as it relates to Microsoft Teams and SharePoint. So it's a deep dive into that, wrapping up
Hmm.
yesterday. But full week of workshops and trainings and living in this virtual world
Yeah.
that we are that we're all in on. How about you?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it was pretty good. I was mostly distracted this week, to be honest. You probably felt that on Monday whenever we talked about our outline and everything. I had some doctor's appointments yesterday, and I was just anxious about it and like not sure. So I have diabetes, so I go see an endocrinologist, and they were checking my neck, and she was like, "Your thyroid feels bigger on one side, so let's do an ultrasound." And so they scheduled that for like a month out. So naturally, I spent an entire month like worrying that I had cancer and freaking out. And I had the ultrasound yesterday, and the doctor said, "Hey, it's like one of the most normal thyroids I've ever seen. So no nodules, no anything like that." So that makes me feel better. I'm in a lot better mood today than I was yesterday. I just ended up taking the whole day off because I was like, I'm just too stressed to think about other stuff. I just need to focus on these appointments and just get through them. So,
Well, I'm glad everything
but,
turned out well. I know exactly what you're dealing with some of the stress there. There's
mhm,
quite a few diabetics in my family, and then
yeah,
some similar issues and the anxiety leading up to it. But I'm glad everything
yeah.
turned out well.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, it feels like, especially ever since the pandemic, it's just like medical anxiety is just something that I struggle with. So working to get through it.
Yeah,
So
definitely
got Vin says
sim-
that, yeah, says that he did some Microsoft Teams for online classes and it went really well. So that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that, man. All right, so
yeah, that's great.
today, on a funner topic than like stress, we wanted to talk about this month what's new in breakout rooms inside of Microsoft Teams. This is something that like I haven't talked about at all. I kind of planned on doing a video about it because kind of the big major things I like to do a video that's like a little bit longer than just like a 5 minute tip and kind of look into it. Um, I don't know if you've done any content on breakout rooms yet, Andy, but yeah,
That's
I kind of like I prepared a bunch of stuff and I actually recorded a video that was going to be like here's how it works and I was going to release it in December, and I recorded it off of like the pre-release version, and usually what I do is then I wait until it hits GA and then I release it. That way I know there's no NDA stuff going on. What happened was my recording got invalidated because when they went from tap to GA, Microsoft changed the icon in the toolbar. It used to be like a box with a bunch of little boxes with like arrows going to them,
I
which I
remember.
think illustrated perfectly what breakout rooms are. And then they changed it to a big box with a little box for the icon. And like my entire video just was useless at that point. So I was like, you know what? I'm just not even going to record anything again. I'll just promote what the other folks are putting out. But since it came out, it's been updated a couple times now, and we're right on the cusp of what I think I kind of view it as like the second major update is rolling out right now in public preview. So I figure it's time for us to finally talk about it and kind of do like an all-encompassing thing to include those new updates of just everything from December until now. And then I don't know what else they might throw into breakout rooms, but maybe it'll just keep getting better and better. So
I try to think about where they might go next, like what the next feature is going to be inside of the
hmm
breakout rooms, and like I can't really think of like that next like big game changer. But they have some people working on this that are way
hmm
smarter and more creative than I. So I'm looking forward to seeing where they're going to take it and what additional features that they're going to bring into it. But I know
Mhm.
for my organization that this was a long overdue feature when they finally released it last year. I think the date kept getting pushed. I think it was announced early in the year, and I want to say we got
Mhm.
it around October maybe of last year, and it was a welcome addition to the Microsoft Teams meeting experience. And my team, we actually did a stress test on it a few months ago because we
Mhm.
really needed to know all the ins and outs and talk about how it compares with some of the competitors' products. And so we put it through the paces. There were about 5 of us on a call, and we pushed everything that we possibly could. We learned some really interesting things that you and I'll talk about here today with it. But some of the new features that we're going to talk about today have also been a big ask from the community. So I'm really excited to go over, demo some of this in a live here today, and show some of these improvements that they've made to it that are going to be game changers for working with breakout rooms and assignments and participants moving forward.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm curious. So you said you started testing it in October last year. It hit GA in December. I know. Yeah, it was one of those things that like I think they originally said July, then like August, then September, then they just pushed it out like further and further. Um,
hmm
did you have any workarounds you were doing before the official breakout rooms came
Yeah.
out to
So
Microsoft Teams? What were you guys doing?
yeah, a couple of different things. We were creating sub meetings, so we'd have like a main meeting, and then we'd create a sub meeting, a secondary
Okay.
meeting scheduled at the same time, and we would put people into the secondary meeting. We also took advantage of channel meetings. We would create a
Hmm.
meeting in like the general channel, and then create a meeting in additional channels, and we would say go to this channel for this meeting and that channel for that meeting. The thing about the workarounds, though, you don't have as much control. Like as the organizer, I could go and start the channel meeting. I could go and
Hmm.
start the secondary meeting. But if I'm in a primary meeting and I start a secondary meeting and wants me to switch over and join, so it puts me on hold in the primary meeting and it takes me over to the other one. If I'm doing it in a channel, in a standard channel, anybody on the team can go to any standard channel meeting and they can join it. And so getting people into the
Hmm.
right room and stopping them from switching and going to another room or into the wrong room was more work than we needed to do. So we didn't
Yeah.
advocate and advertise the workarounds and the capabilities that were available as part of that. We
Hmm.
just, our messaging was breakout rooms are coming in the fall.
Hmm.
We just don't know what year.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of pain in my org too. The one instance that I remember specifically is we did some education for our associates, all 26,000 people. Needed to go through this education basically through September timeframe, September, October, and breakout rooms weren't available. So what they ended up doing, under my advice, I advised them, hey, I think the best thing we could do would probably be channel meetings, and it was kind of a disaster, to be honest. It just we they scheduled the meeting that was like the core training, and that was just a regular Teams meeting. And then they were like, "Hey, we've added you to this Microsoft team for this training, and we've got these like 4 channels. Um, what we're going to do is if your last name is A through G, go to the first channel. If you're H through whatever, go to this channel." And they kind of split them up by last name. And they were like, okay, everybody go to Teams, go to the channel, and then join this meeting. And the problem was just getting there was like a huge disaster. They People would like get lost. They didn't know that the team was there because like maybe it was hidden underneath them because people are in like dozens of teams. Or one of the most common thing was people would get to the right channel, but they would hit the meet button at the top instead of joining the in progress meeting. They would start another channel meeting, and then there'd be like 4 people here and like 16 over in this other one, and it was like mass confusion. Um, so it didn't go very well, to be honest. And then trying to get them to
Yeah.
come back to the meeting, some people just never came back, and I think they just gave up on the whole rest of the day. So breakout
It's
rooms are much welcome compared to that experience. Oh my
It's
gosh.
like the Mark Harmon movie, uh,
Mhm.
summer school where one of the gentlemen goes to the bathroom at the beginning of the summer school session, and then they don't see him again until the end. So like
He just leaves.
he just disappeared. He's just in the bathroom the whole time. So somebody's still in one of your meetings. They're still in a
Yeah.
channel meeting somewhere. They just never left.
Haven't signed out. See, Chris says, I don't know if this is coming, but we were talking about like new features where things might go. People asking for the ability to bounce without being assigned. That would be kind of a game changer, in my opinion, too. That would really enable, in my opinion, like the idea of like a mini conference, right? Where you could
Mhm.
have like a big session, call that the keynote, the general session, if you will. And then if you could just open up the breakout rooms with no assignments and then let people pick which one, I think that would be about the only place that maybe they could go to really turn this into something else. And then you could run like a conference day or like a town hall that has breakout sessions, but let people kind of roam around. That would be super cool.
We would need controls over it though. Like I would want to be able to turn that on or off. I would want to be able to have say as to whether people could freely move from one room to
Hmm.
another because when we're using breakout rooms, typically we're doing it with a specific scenario in mind. We're
Hmm.
doing training and education. I need you to go and work with this facilitator for this next part. I need you to go over here and work with this facilitator so that we can scale the resources that we have
Hmm.
and have that control. The other use case that we have for breakout rooms is when we're working with like executives and they're communicating with the public, with the media, with stakeholders. We want to have like a boardroom session, and some
Hmm.
parts of it are open to the media, for instance. We have to have private conversation at some point, so we need control where we can put the media into a breakout room and keep them there, and then we can put the
Hmm.
executive team, the board team, into a breakout room and keep them there. That way they can have those private conversations and then come back to the main meeting and then continue the line of communication. So we need that level of control. But in other
Wow. I haven't heard
cases,
that at
like
all.
if
That's a cool use case.
yeah, that's
Wow.
one that one of my clients is actually using currently.
Hmm.
Um, and in other situations, bouncing between the different rooms, I could see the advantages to that. There are going to be some scenarios like a virtual conference. Like I want to, here's the main kickoff, and then here's five subsessions of it. I don't really like
Hmm.
this one. Let me go and switch over to this other subtopic. As part of that, I could see the use case for something like that. But as the meeting
Yeah.
organizer or as somebody that's like presiding over a meeting for business case, I want the control. I want to be able to say yes, you can bounce around, or no, you can't.
Hmm. Yeah, that would be super nice. So I thought maybe what we could do is start out with up until now. How do we start breakout rooms? How has this experience worked if you're not in public preview today? So I was thinking that we could start out probably with Alex Wilbur. I've got his Teams client up. And if you guys haven't seen how to do breakout rooms, we'll demo it right here. Basically, what you do is the organizer is the one who has control over whether or not they create breakout rooms, where people are assigned, what they can do within the meeting. So we would need to schedule a new meeting here as Alex Wilbur. And if I add a couple people here, we'll do breakout room ad hoc. So we'll like call this ad hoc testing. We can do like Megan Bowen. We could add
Oh,
Andy to
Megan, she's in
this.
every demo.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so we're gonna demo as Megan to show all the cool new stuff that is
I
coming out,
discovered her
and
Twitter account yesterday.
then yeah, I know who runs that parody account. They DM'd me a while back. I was like, oh man, I thought it was somebody else who was doing
That
this. So if he creates that, he doesn't have the ability to do anything before the meeting starts. You have to actually get into the meeting first, and then you have your breakout options as an organizer. So Alex is going to go ahead and join this meeting. And the button for breakout rooms is right here at the top. So we've got this little like rectangle inside of like a bigger rectangle, and that is what represents breakout rooms. Like I said before, I kind of preferred the old icon. Like when it was in testing, it kind of showed like these little flyouts, and I thought that was a little bit more like breakout rooms. But when Alex clicks on this, what he's going to get is this kind of welcome window that's like, all right, you're going to set up some breakout rooms. How do you want to create them? How do you want to assign people? And you can have up to 50 breakout rooms. And then you can put, is this correct, Andy? I think you can have 1,000 people in the meeting, and then you can put them into up to 50 breakout rooms. I think we can scale up to 1,000.
I'll have to double check on that. I think
It
it
might be
was
like lower now. It
300
might be
at
like
one point.
300. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll look at the
So
limits.
yeah, so if you had 350 breakout rooms, you could have like 6 per room for 50 of them. If it's 1,000, then yeah, you scale up from there. And then you can choose whether you want to automatically assign people to the room or if you want to manually assign people to the room. And if you click manual, you're going to have to like select that person by person. If you click automatic, it will just divide up the meeting evenly and it will tell you, I'm going to put X number of people in X number of rooms. So it kind of keeps it balanced out. Oh, here we go. So we've got a comment. It's 300 max, according to Brian on the product group. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Like, yeah, I wasn't quite sure if they scaled that feature up yet with the 1,000-person limit for large meetings. But yeah, so 350 rooms, that's 6 per room. Or you could have less rooms, right? You could, put like 20 people in a room or something. So I'm going to create these rooms and they're just empty at this point because no one else is in the meeting. So one of the downsides that we've had up until right now in public preview is that if somebody is not in the meeting currently, they're not going to get assigned to a room. And I can't pre-stage that, right? I can't say, well, I've invited Andy, I've invited Miriam and Megan to this meeting. Can I put people in the rooms? Because it's not aware of anybody until they join the meeting. So if I go in here, I'm going to add Megan and Miriam here. So request to join, request to join. Then I've got to find Miriam's VM here. So accept that, accept this. And we'll put these two ladies in the meeting right there. So there's Megan has joined us and Miriam is coming in. She's eating some type of food on some steps. So she's really anxious to learn whatever's going to be in our breakout rooms. So now that a couple people have joined this meeting, oh, and Andy joined as well. So now I have available people and it's aware of who these people are. So now whenever I click assign participants, it comes out and I have this new look and feel. It used to be more manual than this, where you'd have to pick person by person what room they're going to go to. But the new modal that we have now for assignment has gotten even easier since December, where I can do multi-select. So I can put like Miriam and Megan, I can assign them by clicking in the upper right corner. I can put them in room number 1 and I could put Andy by himself. I could drop down individually or I can multi-select, put Andy in room number 2, hit assign. And then now you're going to see, instead of them being up in the available area, they're going to pop down into these breakout rooms. So everybody's been assigned. They get out of like the kind of waiting room. And then now if I drop these down, we have the 2 ladies and we have Andy by himself in room number 2. So that's that new assignment functionality, but we're still needing to do this on the fly during the meeting while everybody's waiting, and only the organizer can do this today. So some of the things that have come out since December, I don't know, what was it, like probably May that these features came out, like the timer and allowing movement, things like that. I think it was like about May or June.
Yeah.
But today, one of the nice features that we've had for a few months is if you click on the gear icon that takes you into the settings for the rooms, you have the ability to set a time limit right here in the middle. And this is a timer. So that automates a little bit of this process. So I could drop this down. I can, say that they're going to be in this meeting for 30 minutes. So 0 hours and 30 minutes. Now, when I open the room, there's going to be a timer going. At the end of 30 minutes, it's going to pull everybody back into the main meeting, which is really helpful. And I can set hours as well. So you can do up to 23 hours and 59 minutes for a breakout room. Anything in between 0 and a full day, basically, minus 1 minute. And then the other thing that we got are these two switches at the bottom here. The first one is, do I want to automatically move the people to the rooms? So that's checked on by default. That means when I open the rooms, it's going to push everybody to their respective meetings. And then a second one is disabled by default. This one is, are the participants allowed to return to the main meeting? So whenever they want to, can they come back to the main meeting, or do I have to close the room and pull them back in? So I'll leave that one disabled, and we'll just set this up. It's changing those settings. And then now if I open up the rooms, you're going to see that all of these three people are going to leave the meeting as they go and join their own session. And over here, we'll watch what happens to Miriam. So Miriam gets this banner across the top, says, hey, you're going to get moved into a breakout room. It's going to happen in 10 seconds. And here we go. So the other meeting goes away. And then now she's in a new meeting for, I think I put her in room number 1. So she's over here in room number 1. There's that timer, 29:53, 29:52. Megan is with her because she was assigned to that room as well. And then now they're having a private conversation, and Alex is by himself in the main room. We can see that everybody has moved to their respective spots. And Andy's just meeting over here by himself.
It's lonely in the room too.
Yep. And then whenever we're ready to pull them back, all I would do is I would hit the close button. That'll pull them all back into the meeting. One thing that came to mind here, I wonder, Andy, can we change the name of the meeting while it's live? I don't think I've ever tried that before. We'll do this, and we'll call this Contoso. We'll kind of do your thing, right? The people from the company, they're in one room. The external people, we'll put them in another room. So like Andy, he's external to the org, so we'll call him guests. And then, yeah, we could split up like the media versus the executive committee and kind of like put them in their own rooms, and then we could pull them back if we need to. So we see Miriam, it still just says room number 1 for her for now. I'm curious because in another place that you have is the chat. I wonder if that renames the chat for us. Probably not, just because like this meeting was already created and already activated. I'm curious what happens. So we'll do hello world. Well, Alex Wilbur changed the meeting to Contoso. So when I do this chat, I bet you it's going to show up as Contoso for the name of the meeting. So we'll say hello, and then back over here in your list of chats, because it's just a meeting chat like you would expect, it says Contoso right there. So changing the name of the meeting while it is live does change, the name of like the whole meeting container on the fly. So that's good to know. Kind of like that. And if I want to make an announcement during this meeting, I can do that here real quick by clicking on like the little bullhorn icon. If I click on that, then I can say, hey, everyone, I'm going to bring you back in to the main meeting. Send. That's going to send a high importance message out to all of those breakout room sessions. So we'll see there, Alex has done a high importance because it was an announcement saying, hey, I'm going to bring you back into the main room. And then I just click close right here. And everybody's going to see a banner come up that says that the meeting is being closed. So I can't send any more chat messages. A 10-second countdown timer will start counting down. I wish it would show that, like how many seconds are left, but the 10 seconds has passed. She's pulled back into the main meeting, and you'll see Miriam shows up with Megan, Andy, and Alex. Should be all together here. And there we go. There's 4 people in the meeting. If I go back over to Alex, he has brought everybody back together. So that's the basics of how breakout rooms work. That's kind of your typical workflow. With one additional thing that they've added that I think is probably the main thing they've added up until September has been the ability to add those timers in there. I know that that kind of automated a lot of the process that we had before.
So something to note from the end user experience as you were going through that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm joining in as a guest from my tenant into your tenant. So I was following along, just kind of watching the back and forth when I was, in the main meeting and then breaking out into room number two.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of things to point out in my experience, because I was just a participant, I only saw one meeting window at a time. I saw the main meeting window, and then it switched me over into the breakout room, room two, and it
Mm-hmm.
did that in a separate window, but it closed the primary meeting window.
Yeah.
Additionally, when I'm on the Teams desktop client. When I go to the Teams desktop client, there were no chats there for me. And initially, it wasn't until Alex Wilbur said, "Hey, I'm going to return you to the main room," that the chat showed up for the meeting. And
Mm-hmm.
then in the main meeting, and when that window popped back up, I typed in a message and just said, "Hey, I'm Iron Man and I'm back." Then the chat
Mm-hmm.
showed up for me in the Teams chat interface on the left hand side there. So just a
Yeah.
couple of things to note. Now, as the organizer, my experience has been I see the main meeting kind of that window in the background, and then I
Mm-hmm.
see the breakout room that I join as a secondary pop up meeting window. So the organizer is going to have a little bit different experience than what the end user is actually going to see. But for the end
Mm-hmm.
user's point of view, it's a pretty seamless transition. Hey, you're in the main room. Oh, now here's a window. Now you're in that secondary sub
Mm-hmm.
meeting essentially, and it goes ahead and it pops open that new window for them, and then it runs from there.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, does it act any different if we toggle that switch for allowing people to go back and forth between the main meeting and the breakout? Like you said, the main meeting window went away entirely,
Mhm.
but for
Yep.
the organizer, they can go in and out of the meetings if they want to. So from the organizer perspective, like that main meeting is there and it just is waiting for other people to join. I'm curious, do we see both of them whenever we check this box, or do you only see the meeting that's active and it will like flip the windows for you automatically? So I'll go in here to the settings for the breakout rooms and let's allow the participant to go back to the main meeting on their own if they want to. So we've turned that feature on. And that's a really important thing to point out there, Andy, that, yeah, you didn't see the chat until somebody said something in the chat. I saw that here where I did not see that under Miriam's account until you said, "I'm Iron Man and I'm back." Um, Whenever you did that, now that chat exists for me in my list of chats. And that's that persistent chat, that I can chat after the thing's over. So we've changed that setting. Let's go ahead and open up these rooms again. We're going to push everybody back out to their respective rooms. So Miriam's going to get a banner. Andy has a banner on his screen. I'm going to turn on Andy's screen. You can see Andy is getting pulled out of that meeting, pushed into the main meeting. So Miriam just got pushed into her meeting right here. So there's Miriam's window. And we should see Megan will show up as well. There's Megan and Miriam. They're together. But now I have this new button that says return right up here at the top. Is that what you see, Andy? Here's Andy's screen.
So here's what I see.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like I'm still in the main meeting there.
Interesting. I see. Yeah, your room is closed. So yeah, let me go back to my screen. It only opened one of the rooms. I wonder if was it because no, like I didn't have it selected. I just clicked the open button up here. All right, let's open it again. That was a fun glitch. It only opened one of the rooms when I clicked the open button to open all the rooms.
All right, can you switch back to my screen? I got a
Yeah.
countdown timer going. All right.
There we go. So there's
So,
Andy's experience.
yep. So now it's switched me to the
Hmm.
breakout room. So I'm in the secondary room. Now I have the option up here to return to the main meeting. So it did
Hmm.
light that up. So I'm going to switch
Nice.
over. Now I'm
And now,
back in
yeah,
the
you're
main
back in the
meeting.
main meeting. So, but you only had one meeting window active at a
Correct.
time. So you're not
Correct.
seeing the other window like on hold or something like that.
No, it's
The other
switching back and
thing
forth.
that I noticed is this is Miriam's screen right now. And I noticed this on yours too, Andy. The menu bar, the title bar up at the top says Contoso and yours said guests. So the name of the meeting is contained inside of the window. And if we switch back over to Andy, so let me drag his screen over. At the top of his meeting window, it says the name of the main meeting, which was Breakout Room Ad Hoc. So you can see it right there at the top center. So that gives you a
So,
little visual indicator of where you're at if you're, an attendee.
and notice up here in the upper right-hand corner, I'm in the
Hmm.
main meeting, but the breakout rooms are in session. I can
Hmm.
join my breakout room right up here.
Yeah, so you can go back into the main or into the breakout room. You can go back and forth. It's not just going in.
Denied.
Oh, what does that error message say? It said what? You
Uh,
don't have access?
yep, said I don't have access. So this is like I'm back in the Teams desktop client now, and if I go here,
Hmm.
this was the breakout room that I was in, and this is the main meeting here. So I'm in chat, just looking at the main meeting. I can go and
So that
join
kicked
from
you out of all meetings. You hit a dead end and then you
yeah,
got basically like kicked out of everything.
yep.
Interesting. And now that you're back in the main meeting, you don't have the join button anymore at the top. That join button kind of went away.
And this is something that when my team and I did a deep dive test into it,
Hmm.
we actually had a scenario very similar to this. I had to drop off toward the end of the deep dive to go and do an office hour session, and then I
Hmm.
returned. And when I returned, they were all in breakout rooms. They had started a breakout room session, and they were all in breakout rooms. When I returned to the meeting, it put me into the main meeting, which is here, not
Hmm.
into one of the breakout rooms. And that's when we discovered that if you drop for any reason, internet connection, you leave the meeting and you return. Maybe you're having audio problems, you leave and you return. For instance, when I returned back to the meeting, it took me into the main part of the meeting. But if the breakout rooms are up and running, through the team's chat interface, I can see the main meeting is going, and then if I were
Hmm.
part of a breakout room, that showed up as a secondary meeting inside of the chat area. And then if that breakout room were open and were running, I would have a
Hmm.
join button, and then I could rejoin from there. But most end users aren't going to pay attention to that. They're not going to go and explore through that. So
Yeah.
we did some governance and guidance for our users, and we communicated that if you're the organizer, make sure you keep an eye on the main meeting room, in case somebody kind of gets left behind, or, somebody joins a little bit late, or, whatever reason. Make sure you keep an eye on that main meeting room so that people don't get
Hmm.
left out, and so that you can redirect them back to where they need to go.
Yeah, because if I wasn't paying attention, this is Alex's screen, the organizer. If I wasn't paying attention, I wouldn't see that Andy came back in, and he's kind of stuck here at this point. What I've got to do is I've got to go reopen his room to go send him back off to his room because he got kind of clipped off somehow. And it's like, oh no, like rather than worrying about how that happened, it's just I just need to route him to the right place, right? That's kind of your job as the organizer or the person who's managing the rooms. Even with this new feature that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, um, the person who's managing and opening and closing rooms, they need to keep an eye on like what's going on so that somebody doesn't get stuck in the main meeting because they left completely and they got kind of like lost out there, outside of the spaceship, if you will. So that's one of the things that we had like under our things to try. Another thing that I have is with the announcements. We've got these rooms that are open now. what happens if a user responds to that announcement? What does that look like for the organizer? What does it look like for the people who are in the meeting? So if I'm Alex, I'm going to say, here's another announcement. That's going to send out to all of the breakout rooms individually. And Andy and Miriam, they could reply to it if they want to. So Miriam's going to say, cool. We flip back over. Alex does get a reply notification right here. But what I've noticed is I'm not, that wasn't sent to the main meeting. That was sent to the breakout session for the meeting. Therefore, I don't have the little red dot indicator on the chat bubble for the meeting that I'm sitting in because I'm sitting in the main meeting. I'm not in the breakouts, but I do get the desktop toast notifications. So, another thing to watch if you're an administrator or you're the person who's managing the breakout rooms is in the background, you see there's new chats in those breakout rooms. Because I sent something out to all of the breakout rooms, they're now available in my list of chats in my main desktop app. And because Miriam and Andy both replied, those chats went to that breakout rooms chat role, if you will. So here's an important announcement, cool. And Andy replied with probably a sarcastic gif of some sort. Oh, it's Iron
The
Man.
most awesome GIF ever.
There you go.
The gift that keeps
So,
on giving.
like that, I'm a little bit torn about this, because like you don't, there's a little bit of maybe confusion would arise out of this. Like, hey, I sent something I didn't see in this window. It's like in this other window behind it. But if you think about it, that's actually a very good thing because you don't want these chats to mix up at all. You don't want people to accidentally see things back because you could you could like ask a question, that's like hey, here's a personal question. You could send that out, and then you could have the people in the breakout rooms reply with their personal answer, but you don't want to mix that up. So it makes a lot of sense that the replies from the individual people would go into the breakout chat because that's where they are. They're the more important people. And you wouldn't want that coming back to the main chat messages because then people would see the chat from what they expect to be the breakout room. And in Andy, in your case of like you got executives and media that are like separate, you wouldn't want the executives to like post something in reply to the moderator thinking that the media couldn't see it, but then they could because it was in the main room accidentally. So that's just I think it makes sense, right? That it's like in there. It's just
Mhm.
you got to watch for people to come back in because they got kind of kicked out and they came back into the main room. But you also have to watch that chat to see if anything's happening that needs your attention. The other way that people could get your attention as the moderator is they could at reply the person. So even though Miriam has replied and said, "Hey, cool," and here's a personal question, I could get Alex's attention a little bit better by doing at Alex because he's a member of this chat. I'm able to say, hey, Alex, here he comes up. I have a question. So hard to type and talk at the same time. I have a question. And then that gets Alex's attention even more because it says, hey, Miriam mentioned you. So that shows the little at mention symbol. So that's another thing to kind of keep an eye on if you've got these windows tiled on top of each other. Keep an eye for that little red at sign because that will indicate that like somebody's trying to get your attention in the chat because you might have like a really chatty group and you want to make sure that like if somebody mentions you specifically that you're aware of that because you're not hearing the audio conversation. So now I've been mentioned in
That's going to
both
be
channels.
some housekeeping and some expectations that you would need to set ahead of time. For example, if we're going to use breakout rooms for technical training scenario, and I'm the organizer, and I'm just kind of bouncing around from room to room, I want to make sure that I communicate to them my attention. Please mention me through the chat. That way,
Mm-hmm.
I get a notification around that, and then I can follow up and I can work with you. So we're gonna have to have some guidance ahead of time when you're going into the breakout room. Just a slide that
Mm-hmm.
says, "Hey, make sure you use the app mention if you need to get the organizer's attention." Pay attention to the announcements. Just know that if you reply to an announcement, I might not see it, so it is a good idea to go ahead and mention me. That way, I do get that notification and I can interact with it.
Mm-hmm. Charlie is watching on Yammer, and he said, "I wonder if it closed the room because the last person left. Like whenever you left, and then you
Yeah.
couldn't rejoin." So let me do this, Andy. Let's take Miriam, and we'll have her return back to the main meeting. So she's coming back in. We're going to see Miriam next to Alex, and the meeting should still be open because Megan is in the meeting here. So Miriam is back, and she's not in meeting anymore. So let's go back here to assign participants, and I'm going to move Miriam to your breakout room, and I'm going to send her on her way. So I'm going to grab Miriam. I'm going to move her from Contoso to. I wonder if I can't do it because that group is open, or that breakout room is open currently. She's unassigned. Oh, no, I can do it. So I'm going to assign her to guests and hit move. It's going to shuffle her down to guests should have 2 members in it here. Miriam's not paying attention at all. She's just stirring that lunch with that fork, man. I love these like stock videos that I got. I've got the one for Adele Vance. Is she's like got her hand over her face, and every like couple seconds she like sneaks a chip underneath her hand, so she's like eating potato chips. So I've got 2 guests now, and because I assigned her and I said automatically move, it moved her right away into the other room. So now Miriam is sitting with you, Andy. If I drag your screen over here, go ahead and leave the meeting, and I'll watch from my side. We'll make sure that it doesn't close the room. And then let's see if you can rejoin because the meeting is still alive.
All right, so I am back at the main meeting now.
Cool. Yeah, we
Took a
see each
few
other now.
seconds, and finally the join option showed up in the upper right-hand corner, but it took about 10 seconds for it to show up.
Okay.
Now I can rejoin because the room is open. Yep, and there she is,
There you go.
still eating her
Yeah.
salad.
So you didn't get the whole you don't have access to this meeting. Now,
Yeah.
Megan, let's go bring up Megan Bowen. Here's her window. She's going to do what you did. She's going to return to the meeting. She's going to come back into the main meeting. It's going to take, maybe 5-10 seconds. There's Megan. She's rejoining the breakout room ad hoc testing. Oh, I'm going to turn off her video because it's just a blank screen. So she's there. Now, Alex sees that the room is closed. So, yes, Charlie, you were
Bring that
right.
to the forefront and Restream.
Oh, gosh. Sorry. I forgot to swap that out. So, over here, Megan came back. So, Megan and Alex are together in the main room. It says breakout room ad hoc. On Alex's screen, we do see that, yes, because Megan was the last person in the meeting and she left, it got closed. You see the close icon there. So because it is closed, if she goes and tries to join, she should get the error that you got, Andy, which was, hey, you can't access this meeting. There you go. Can't access because I haven't opened it up. Very interesting. Yeah, Charlie, you nailed it. That's what happened. It closed automatically. Couldn't get back in, so now he's just kind of left out. So as long as you're not the last person that leaves, people should be able to jump back into the breakout. And this isn't a great example because we're only doing breakouts with like one person in it, right? You know, ideally you're going to have more than one person, so the odds of this are pretty low. But yeah, it's something that happens though. Like you said in your testing, Andy, like you saw people getting like kicked out of meetings and like not being able to get back in, and hopefully that checkbox here uh, for allow them to return, that smooths this process out a little bit. They can go back and forth as long as they're not the last person.
Yeah, so good governance that you need to make sure you pass along to your meeting
Mhm.
organizers so that they understand the intricacies of this. Keep an eye on that general meeting to see if somebody
Mhm.
did get kicked out of the meeting or somebody left and then they rejoined. Make sure nobody's just hanging out in the main meeting with nothing to do. Just so
Mhm.
you gotta keep an eye on that.
Hopefully, hopefully they'll unmute themselves and say, "Hey, I got left out." You know, they'll kind of prompt you a little bit because you might be in the chat or something else going on. So that shows a little bit of like the organization of getting people in and out of the meetings. We've learned a couple things about like giving that control over to the users, you know, into the individual people. Um, some of the other things that they can do is it's just a normal meeting, so they can share content. Maybe they start a whiteboard. Maybe they start recording that meeting. Like, what happens to those assets is kind of the next thing I think to unpack out of this before we talk about like the new features. So, Andy, do you have experience with that? Have you like you've set up these meetings, you push everybody out, and then they like record those rooms, or they go whiteboard and they need to present it back to the main meeting?
So as you were just saying a minute ago, when you're in a breakout room, it's essentially a normal Teams meeting. It has all the
Mhm.
functionality and features of a normal Teams meeting. Can you bring my screen up?
Yeah,
There we
there
are.
you go.
All right. So when I'm in the meeting, it's a normal meeting for me. I have
Mhm.
full access to the participants pane. I have full access to the chat window. I have my reactions. I have the meatball menu and all the controls there. I have my share tray, and I've got all the sharing options that are associated uh, with um, uh, with in my case the desktop version of
Yeah,
a team. So it's
with
a
a
normal meeting
guest,
for me.
right? Because like you
Yeah.
can't
Well.
start a whiteboard. You're missing one thing is the
Yeah.
whiteboard, but yeah, you're able to do your screen at least in PowerPoint.
Right. Yeah, so I can use, PowerPoint Live, I can share screens, I can share windows. So for me, essentially, it's a normal meeting. Now I am a guest in this tenant, so there's some limitations as to what I can do. Like I can't attach a file and share
Mhm.
that as part of the chat. Now I see this as part of the meeting window experience, but if I go to the Teams desktop client in the back end, I'm in this breakout room. There's the chat tab, so it shows the chat and the conversation, and then there's the files
Mhm.
tab. So if there are files, potentially I could see them there. Now I'm going to try and share because we're here. I'm going to see if it's going to actually let me share. So let me go and grab just a dummy document.
Mhm.
All right, so I'm going to try and share that. It says it's uploading. All right, so it says I shared it, showing up here in the files area. I'm going to go back to the
Mhm.
chat tab, and so
And I
there
got an
I was
alert as
able.
the organizer too. Sorry to interrupt. I
Yeah.
also got right here, hey Andy in the guest shared a file. So I get alerted of that even though I'm not in the meeting.
Yeah, so it added that to the chat
Mhm.
here in the desktop client. But if I go back to the window, I'll also see it as part of the meeting chat. It does show up there as well. But to the larger point, when we're in the breakout room, essentially it's a meeting. It's just like a Teams meeting. So
Mhm.
the functionality that you're used to inside of a Teams meeting should work. Now that kind of leads up to some of the other points that we were talking about just a moment ago. What about things like recording? So we're in a big meeting. We can record the big meeting, but what about recording the breakout room sessions? So the
Mhm.
recording is a feature that you can use. So with the appropriate permissions, you could go in and you could start a recording for the individual rooms. Now, here's where it gets a little nuanced. If I'm the organizer and I want to record all of the rooms, I might need to set the meeting settings, meeting options to automatically record right away. Because otherwise, if I don't do that, the participants in the breakout room might not have the permissions to be able to start the recording. So, as an organizer, I might have to
Mm.
scramble to 50 different rooms and hit the record button, which means join the room, hit record, leave, join the next room, hit record, leave, and so forth. So you might want to consider using meeting options to automatically start the recording when the meeting starts so that it goes ahead and captures that. And as an organizer, you don't have to scramble and go and hit the record button in a whole bunch of different rooms.
Yeah.
And then essentially the recording is just going to show up like any other recording. It'll show up as part of the chat history whenever the meeting is over. And depending on how you're using your breakout room scenario, if it's a private meeting or if it's a channel meeting, as to where that recording is going to be stored. Either if it's a private meeting, it'll be in OneDrive, and if it's a channel meeting, it'll essentially be stored inside of SharePoint. And
Hmm.
then as far as when you click that or when that recording starts, where's it going to live? Is it in the OneDrive of the person that started the meeting, or that the first person in the breakout room, or is it in the OneDrive for the organizer of the meeting, the person that actually scheduled the meeting? And that's where it's going to live. It's going to be in that organizer's OneDrive, and then it's going to share with the people that were part of that breakout room session. So you'll find that in the OneDrive recordings folder, and you'll see that that particular recording will automatically be shared with everybody that was part of that breakout room session.
Hmm. So yeah, I went
Now,
ahead and I did that while you were explaining the recording stuff. Miriam, because she's a member of Contoso, I clicked record as her. So you saw the banner come up, and just like you said, that little 1 minute recording that is in the chat assets, the little thumbnail for the breakout. So we've got an individual recording that only the people who are assigned to the breakout have access to. The people in the other breakout can't get to the recording of the first breakout room because they're not, a member of that chat.
can you switch over to Miriam and go to
Mhm.
her OneDrive?
Yeah, so here's that chat, and if Miriam goes into her OneDrive here, I'm just going to open this up. I think I have OneDrive configured on this virtual machine. Yeah. So there's OneDrive Contoso. She goes into her recordings folder, and there you go. It's the name of the breakout room, if you remember, was the word guests. So it's named, let me get rid of this edge window. It's named guests, and it's 2021, October 22nd at, was it 11:01 and 27 seconds. So it's stored in Miriam's OneDrive because she's the one who pressed record, and it's automatically shared with the people who were in that meeting. So you see the little share icon next to the cloud right there. And I'm going to right click on this and hit share. And we'll take a look at what those OneDrive sharing options look like. So there we go. It's shared automatically with people you specify, which is the members of that chat. So there's Miriam, and there was Alex because he's the organizer. And then you notice it's not shared with Andy. That's because Andy is external to the organization. So it's not automatically shared with him. It's shared with the people in the same company automatically. And the big bonus is you notice that they do not have editing rights, and it blocks the download of that video. That's just a OneDrive default for Teams meeting recordings is you can't download, like the other people can't download, only the person who owns the file can download it. Um, but that's how any recording works. So this is just like any other meeting recording, basically. Now, I'm curious though, probably one of the most common things that's going to happen, Andy, is sharing a whiteboard in there because they're like, hey, we're going to do some brainstorming. We're going to throw three of you guys in three different rooms and we're going to come back and talk about it at the end. So, if that were the case, one, you have to have everybody be in the same company. You can't have guests in this situation because the guests currently do not have access to Microsoft Whiteboard. But that being said, Miriam, who's a member of Contoso, she can click on whiteboard and she's going to share this whiteboard. and then we'll see how would she bring that whiteboard into the main meeting if we're going to do some brainstorming, and then we're going to talk about it when the timer goes up.
Can you bring my screen up real quick while that's actually
Yeah.
loading?
So that is spinning up for Miriam, and right here, this is
This
what
is what
Andy
I see
sees.
as a guest. Whiteboarding in progress, but you can't participate. Maybe soon you'll be able to.
Yeah. So that's a sad icon. But I think, what do they have it slated for on the roadmap? I think December is what they said, guest sharing. Something like
I'll
that.
pull
Or
it up.
maybe it's October, but you have to have the whiteboard in OneDrive, which that's another feature that's coming soon for Whiteboard, is the ability to store the whiteboard in OneDrive. That's going to be an opt-in at first. So your entire organization has to opt into it. But there's some caveats to that. It's going to be migrated and forced over to OneDrive in January. I just got a message center update last night that said, hey, January it's going to be OneDrive for everybody. That would be the architectural path, right? Is when it's in OneDrive, that's going to allow that sharing to be a possibility. When it's not in OneDrive, it's in Azure, it's not even a possibility currently.
So according to the roadmap,
Mm-hmm.
Whiteboard, external access in Microsoft Teams, any guest, external or anonymous, in a Teams meeting can view and collaborate on the whiteboard during the meeting. They will not have continued access to the whiteboard after the meeting ends. This feature only applies to customers
Mm-hmm.
using Whiteboard on OneDrive for Business. GA, October 2021.
There you go. So I was right. It's got to be in OneDrive, and it's only going to work while they're in OneDrive. Now, for Cerner specifically, I don't know how it works with your customers, but we've made the decision we're definitely not going to turn this on until that January timeframe comes, because the message center post that we got was, hey, we know that you have people using this on Surface devices or Windows or iOS, because they know that who's using what apps. If you flip this on, if you're an administrator who's watching right now, if you flip Whiteboard over to OneDrive, it's going to break the iOS, the Windows, and the Surface Hub versions of Whiteboard for those new meetings that are stored in OneDrive, those whiteboards. So that's the reason why we're not going to go, because we don't want to break those clients. We're going to wait till the clients update, and then we'll go in January, as long as it doesn't get delayed.
That's something else to point out while we're here. You're doing a whiteboarding session. I'm a guest.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see that. Now, I'm watching this on the stream. I can see what you're doing on the stream. I can see the Miriam's screen and what she sees over there. But the Teams meeting recording right now does not capture the whiteboard as part of the recording. So while you're doing this session, it's essentially just going to be a blank area in that recording. Now, I know
Mm-hmm.
the capturing the whiteboard session is on the roadmap for Teams meeting recordings, but it's not there currently. So this leads us into a little bit of a workaround situation. So you started this in the actual breakout room. So you started the whiteboard session in the breakout room. That activated the whiteboard. You could switch and you could open up whiteboard in your web browser. You could open up whiteboard in the
Or the
Teams
tab.
client.
Yeah.
And you could share your screen and share the whiteboard. And then because you're sharing a screen, the recording will pick that up. And so then it'll be actually part of the meeting. Now that's a workaround. It's a little bit of extra work. Additionally,
do
because
that,
I'm a
actually.
guest. So while you're doing that, additionally, because I'm a guest, I can't see what you're doing on the whiteboard. But if you were to open that whiteboard up in the Teams desktop client in the tab like John's doing, or if you were to open that whiteboard up in the web browser and you were to share that as part of what you're doing, then I could see that on my screen. I couldn't interact with it, but I could at least see the session, and then I would be able to at least visually participate, use audio and participate as well. So like if you share my window now, this is what I see. I'm seeing your desktop client. I see the whiteboard session. And I, depending on maybe one other workaround, as we're kind of deep diving into this, if we had the control set up so that I could request control. Maybe I could take control of your cursor and then I could interact through the control thing, but I wouldn't have my own cursor and be able to interact.
Mm-hmm. There we go. Yeah, so you're watching me draw in real time because I'm screen sharing the tab from the main desktop client. So that is a good workaround for now. But yeah, in October, if you guys opt in early, in early 2022, if you wait until all the clients are updated, you won't need this screen sharing workaround for Whiteboard because you'll have external sharing. So, but that is really helpful to be able to do that for the people who are guests. Now, what I'm wondering, Andy, is okay, so we did some brainstorming. We came up with an awesome diagram here of how the square is going to feed into the triangle is going to feed into the circle. And we want to share this $1 million idea with the main room. How would we go about that? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen as Miriam. I'm going to go back over to my computer, and let's say Alex says, all right, great job, everybody. Let's close the rooms. Let's bring everybody back together. And then Andy and Miriam are going to share what they did in the whiteboard. So we're bringing it back in. It's going to take like 10 seconds because remember, it's got to count down the timer. So I just saw Andy's screen just flash. So Andy shows up. Miriam's slow. She's working on her lunch, right? So there's Miriam. Everybody's back together. Everybody's happy. And we're like, okay, Andy and Miriam, what did you guys do? So you got two options, and it's basically using your workaround again, Andy, is you either screen share, Miriam screen shares, or Alex could actually screen share. So if it's like, hey, Miriam's going to do all the talking, Miriam is right here. She would say, okay, here's what we did with our whiteboard. She definitely do not click whiteboard here because that'll start a new whiteboard for the main meeting. Instead, what she's going to do is she's going to share her screen. And then from the guest breakout room chat, she would open up the whiteboard. Oh, actually, the tab's not there. So she's going to have to go get it from the web browser because she got locked out of the chat. So let's go to whiteboard.microsoft.com, get it from there. This is where like it would be really nice, Andy, if you could share and click whiteboard and then you could say I want a new whiteboard or I want an existing whiteboard. If she could like grab that whiteboard and plop it into the main meeting, you wouldn't have to do this web browser stuff, you know. Apparently I got an Edge update. So we're getting whiteboard loaded up here, and we should see a whiteboard called guests. There it is. So there's the whiteboard called guests. Miriam could now open that up in her Edge browser, share her screen, and then now she could present that to the everybody in the main meeting and say, hey, here's what we brainstormed. So you can get it back if you're doing screen sharing. Now, Alex, on the other hand, what does he have options for? Alex is here. He wants Miriam to step through, or he wants Andy to step through. What did you guys do? Alex could share his screen. So he's gonna flop his screen up for everybody. But because Alex is the organizer, he maintains access to the chat because he's the one who owns the chat. So Alex could actually just open up the whiteboard tab for that breakout meeting and then show it. He doesn't have to go to a browser, log in, find the whiteboard, then open it up. So Alex, as the facilitator, could bring it up for everybody by sharing his screen and then just say, okay, Andy and Miriam, you have the floor. What did you guys talk about? The big thing is that Miriam and Andy wouldn't have the ability to scroll in and out and move around and stuff without taking control of Alex's screen share.
Gotta love the workarounds.
Yeah. So I think it's probably the smoothest for the organizer to do the sharing from the tab But you do like lose that ability for the person who's talking to kind of organically move around the whiteboard. And hey, hopefully a lot of this will smooth out when we get over to OneDrive. I don't know, maybe probably the only thing that could smooth this process out would be if you could select an existing whiteboard when you click the whiteboard button under the share tray. I
Right.
think that would fix this issue. So that's sharing content. We talked about recording. You definitely want those recordings separate because you don't want people from this breakout room to see the other breakout rooms recording and vice versa. But people might do like a show and tell if they were working on a slide deck together or they were working on a whiteboard together. They're just going to share their screen and here's what we did in our breakout to kind of show their brainstorming session back in. So that talks about sharing content back in. We talked about announcements and replying to announcements. You want to look at the last thing I have on the list for things to try, Andy, is what happens for the web users. Like we've been showing the desktop client this whole time. Does this work if the person joins from the web, or do they have a diminished experience? How does that work? So let me stop sharing this monitor here. And I think if you want to go to the web, you can, or I can do it as Megan and we can see what she
I'll
looks
do it.
like. Cool. Let me flip screens for
Okay.
you. So Andy has left the meeting. He's going to go rejoin the main meeting from his browser. And then I'll put him in a breakout room and I'll send everybody to their respective rooms. And remember, if you guys have any questions or you want us to try something out, let us know in the chat. We'll happily take it that direction and just try whatever. That's what I love about these live streams is we just like it's not a real meeting. We can just try whatever we want and see what works and what doesn't.
You can try and break it.
Yeah. Whoa, that's a long password. That was a lot of dots.
Password managers.
Yeah. Plus MFA.
Make it as hard as I can on the machines to brute force it.
Yeah. Nobody getting into Andy's Teams client.
All right. So I'm signed in. So let me switch over to Microsoft Teams in my web browser.
Mm-hmm. So terrified that one of these days, like on a live stream, I'm gonna like accidentally type my password like in the username field.
I did
like,
that in
oh no,
training. I did that in training and online training years ago.
really?
And so now I'm like extra cautious, like when I
Yeah.
have to like log
Like,
in.
hey everybody, we're gonna
Passwordless
take a
login.
5-minute break while I change my password. And then watch
right,
all of your
so
apps break. You have to re-authenticate everywhere. That would be a nightmare.
All right, so I'm joining the breakout room ad
Okay.
hoc. So I'm going to go ahead and join in now.
Cool.
All right, so
Okay.
I
So
am
I see you
in.
back in the meeting.
Yep.
All right. Let me open up the rooms and we'll just leave you up on screen. See what this looks like for the web user. So the rooms are opening. You've got that banner. What does that say? You have 10 seconds.
Breakout room session has started. You'll automatically be moved in 10 seconds. And now I am in the breakout room in the web browser.
Awesome. There we go. So web browser, no problem. They don't need the desktop app if you're doing, training with people who don't use Teams normally. So they're all joining from the web browser. You can still use breakouts just fine. Now you won't be able to manage the breakout rooms from the web client, but if you're the organizer, you should be running the Teams desktop app. I did see also, Andy, if you wiggle your mouse a little bit, you even have the return button. So even that setting to go back to the main meeting, you go into the meeting from before, he can do that from the web browser as well. So you're not really losing any functionality by not using the desktop app when it comes to breakout rooms.
And it's really helpful for the end users because all they have to do is click on the meeting invite that they get in their inbox. And then
Hmm.
if they're comfortable using Teams in the web browser, it minimizes the number of clicks that it takes to actually open the meeting and get that meeting started. One of my
Hmm.
colleagues did a comparison with Teams and some of the competitors, the number of clicks that it takes to actually get into a meeting, and Teams is actually 2 or 3 clicks fewer versus some of the other meeting softwares out there to get
Hmm.
you into a meeting. So for Teams user going into the web browser, it could be as simple as here's my invitation in the inbox, click on join team meeting. The web browser window opens. Do you want to open the desktop or join here? Just click
Hmm.
join here, and then essentially you're in it 2 or 3 clicks, and you're in the meeting. And then the breakout rooms just seamlessly switches them right over, right inside of the tab. So it really just minimizes that workflow for the end user. They don't have to worry about, am
Yeah.
I clicking on the right thing? Am I navigating to the right place? No, it's handling most of it for them. So it's pretty slick the way that they put that together.
Yeah, that's the main beauty of breakout rooms in general, right? Is that it's completely hands off for the person. Like I said at the beginning, we had people trying to go into channel meetings and it was a disaster. Like you definitely don't want to try to rely on giving users instructions and then having them execute those and times like 30 people in a meeting. Like there's some percentage is not going to make it. Being able to do it for them is killer. So I think now we are up to current day at this point in time. What is the new experience? I would call it the fall update. So we had the the initial release was in December. Then breakout rooms got a little bit of an update in the spring summer timeframe. That was the ability to reuse meetings if it's a recurring meeting, allow the movement, allow people to return to the meeting and to join the breakout meeting, and add timers. That was kind of the big one, was the timers. With the fall update, what's currently rolling out, we have the new assignment UI. So that is, let me switch my screen. That is the ability where you click assign participants and you see this wonderful table right here. So you have the ability to assign people without like a lot of clicks. You could do multi assigns, stuff like that. We have delegate management and pre-creation slash pre-assignment. So the easy one, the first one to talk about here, is delegate management, because I noticed, Alex is actually in ring 4. He's total GA. He's not in a public preview at all. So I'm going to close this room. And I noticed that he has the ability to assign presenters. This is something, Andy, when you and I were testing on Monday, Alex didn't have this feature, so he got it this week at some point, which is wonderful. But he doesn't have the the pre-assignment stuff quite yet, I don't think. So now that all the rooms are closed, I have the gear icon. I can delegate now who can present or who can manage the breakout rooms. And the way that I do that is I just turn on the checkbox for assign presenters to manage other rooms. And then I have a drop down where I can pick people from this meeting. So I can give Miriam the control to manage the breakout rooms. Now, I see Andy in here, but Andy is a guest. He's not a member of this tenant. I'm going to go ahead and add him and just see if it'll let him manage the rooms even as an external person. So the settings are updating here. And if we switch over to Miriam, who's right here, Miriam now has the breakout room button right here at the top, and she's able to manage these breakout rooms just like Alex was able to. So we've handed that off. Now Alex can be the presenter. He can share the slides. Miriam in the background could be doing all the breakout rooms. Andy, I'm going to flip with your screen. Did you get the breakout room button?
I do
Does
not
not
have
look
it.
like you did. So
No.
that's what I expected is the external participants, even if you like delegate that off to them, they can't manage the breakout rooms. It's got to be a presenter in the same tenant that the meeting was organized in. I don't know why that didn't error out. I kind of expected that to error out, but whatever.
Now, I'm curious, since you just mentioned that Alex was in Ring 4 and
Hmm.
the delegation of room assignments is now available for participants, I'm going to go and check just my Andy default account.
Hmm.
And I'm going to go, I've got a meeting over here, and I'm going to
See
check
if
and
you can do it.
see. Yeah. If not, we're going to talk a little bit about public preview and what that actually means. All right.
Hmm.
So I'm going to go up to breakout rooms manually and go ahead and create that.
Hmm.
All right. So find participants. So it's asking me to go ahead and assign people to that. So give me 1 second.
Yeah. So you've got the new UI. That's feature number one of the fall update was the new assignment modal. And you're going to pop somebody into the meeting. Now you can assign that
All right.
person.
So I got a user that just joined in. All right. So I can assign them to a room.
Hmm.
I can move them into that room right away. I'm just going to go ahead and cancel that, cancel the room assignments. All right, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to go to the gear icon
Hmm.
and
There
assign
you go.
presenters to manage the room. So this is now live for me, and this particular user is in Ring 4. So this is I'm basically on general
Hmm.
availability or GA release for this particular person. So this user is now going to be able to work with the room assignments. So then they can go into meeting options. I can control who can present, and whatnot.
Hmm.
But that person should now be able to control the assignments for uh, for the breakout rooms.
Yeah. So
So
if you
that
don't have
is
it
now
now,
live.
it's
So
very
if we
imminent.
can, I do just want to
Yeah.
take just a second
Yeah.
to segue. Um, when John and I were doing testing on this at the beginning of the week, it was not available for our users in the client. It's on the roadmap for being released here in October. But when we were testing this on Monday for Ring 4 general
Hmm.
availability, these features were not there. We had to use the public preview for the user to do some of the testing. And so I'm just going to briefly show you the public preview. So let me sign me out, and I'm going to sign back in with my preview user. I have my own tenant. You can go and get a Microsoft 365 demo tenant, and you
Hmm.
can test out some of the same things that I'm getting ready to show you. In my tenant, I've created a preview user, and I've set this user up just so I have one user that I can go and preview new features with. So I'm going to log in as my preview user, and I'm doing this in the Teams desktop app. All right, so I'm logging in with this user. Now I'm going to go up here and I'm going to go to the meatball menu, and I'm going to go into the About section. In the About section, I have the option to switch over to public preview. So this user is registered for public preview, and that just allows this user to experience some of these features before they go GA. So John
Hmm.
was mentioning like the rings. There's internal rings like 1.5, 2, 3, 3.5, and 4. This puts this user in a preview ring so that they can see some of the features while they're still in testing before they actually are released. So this user is now identified in the Teams client. It's got a P up in the upper right hand corner of the logo. And this user is now logged in as a public preview user. So you can sign up for this today. I've got the instructions here. I'll post this in the for those of you that are viewing the live stream with us and in YouTube. I'll make sure you get that in that window. But basically, for the public preview, this is the Microsoft's got an article in docs.microsoft.com on how to sign up for public preview. So you just have to update a policy for the user in the admin center, and then you can pick and choose whether it's their preview for things like the um, based off of Office, or whether it's basically just enabled, which means all the time. So you set the update policy for the user in the Teams admin center. And then just as I showed you a second ago, you log in as that user, and then you just make sure you go into the about section and you switch over into the public preview, and then you'll be ready to
Mhm.
go. So like if I go and I manage my users, like so I can go in, find the user that I want to manage the preview with, like in this particular client. So like, let's say I wanted to take like Miriam and I wanted to have her in a preview ring. Um,
Mhm.
we'll go ahead and manage that user in the Teams admin center. Hurry up and wait. There we go. All right. And then I would go into the policies area, and then I would be able to work with the update policy. So right now, this user is registered for a global policy, but I would actually create a secondary policy, and that secondary policy I would use. I would create a preview policy, and then I would apply it, and then I can choose whether to show preview features, and I can enable it for that user. I can do it as part of the general policies. I just like having a separate policy for that. That's just my preferred governance. But I would go
Mhm.
ahead and make the change to the policy or create the separate one, enable those features, and then log in with that user. Go ahead and switch over the into the public preview, and then I could test out some of the new features. But again, I'll make sure that I link to this uh, in the YouTube chat so that anybody that's following along at home, you got that reference, and now you know how to set up a user for public preview, so you can test out some of the features that are not ready for GA just yet, but it gives you an opportunity to kind of test and work with it ahead of time. But fortunately, this one feature that we're talking about today does appear to be available GA now, so we don't have to worry about public preview for this particular instance.
Mhm. Yeah, and the way we've set up public preview at Cerner is, like you explained, we've got 2
All right,
policies. We've got general, we've got an update or
John, you're muted.
oh, no. Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Do we lose your audio?
Maybe. There we go, I
Still not
unmuted.
coming through. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah. Come on. How about now? Can you hear me now? Dang it.
For
I lo
anybody that's out there watching in YouTube land, can you just give us a comment in the YouTube chat and let us know if you're able to?
Okay. Chris says he can hear both of us.
Chris says he can hear us both.
Yeah. I'm gonna replug my headphones in. So I lost my headphones got all like choppy on me. So I unplugged them and switched over to Bluetooth. So I'm gonna try plugging in with this. All right, I'm gonna set my audio output to Wave XLR. Okay, start talking, Andy. All right, everybody says they can hear me, but Andy can't hear me now. Oh my gosh, what is going on? Yeah, I can hear you, Andy, and the stream can hear me. And the stream can hear you, but you can't hear me. Restream. So dumb. I'm going to chat with Andy and tell him I can hear you. We may have to have Andy leave and come back. Okay, so Andy's going to work on it. He's going to leave and come back. But as Andy was talking about with the preview ring stuff, we set it up at Cerner. We've got an early adopter group. It has like about 500 people in it, and they are set to have public preview. But the people who are The people who are not in the early adopters, they're just the general population. So they don't have public preview. All right, Andy has rejoined. Can you hear me, Andy? Can you hear me talking? JB says that your screen share was lagging a little bit. I wonder if it's like network problems or something. So while he's working on that, the next thing that I wanted to go over, the last thing that I wanted to go over in this one is pre-assignment and pre-creation. This is again one of those public preview things that we had access to like earlier this week, but it looks like it's rolling out to general availability now. So that's wonderful news. That is the ability to create the rooms without being in the meeting and even assign people to the rooms without them having to be in the meeting. And this is like super powerful. So, what I'm showing, I've got Megan Bowen here all set up, ready to go. And I created a meeting that I added like 6 or 7 people to, and I called it Breakout Rooms Demo. If I go in and edit the meeting, what you're going to see now is you see this new tab at the top called Breakout Rooms. And the Breakout Rooms tab is kind of like an app. So, you know how you can like click the plus button right here and you can add like the polling app and you can do forms before the meeting starts and all that cool stuff. Well, from here, you can do breakout rooms, and that's just one of these preloaded tabs if you're the organizer. If I open that up, that gives me a whole bunch of options now for making the rooms, naming them, doing options and assignments from the main Teams window. So this meeting hasn't started yet. I'm still just in the planning phase. I'm going to hit create rooms as Megan Bowen, and I'm going to make 3 rooms. Boom. They're getting created right now, but I've never joined this meeting. Nobody else is in this meeting. I've got my 3 rooms all set up, and I can even click on them. I can edit the rooms individually. Clicking on edit, I can call this room A, and then room 2 and room 3 because I'm psychotic like that. Um, so I've got these 3 rooms. They're made. If I click assign participants up at the top, I can click that. We can assign the participants to the rooms automatically or manually. I'm going to click automatic because I don't really care how they get spread out. And now it's assigning the participants. Boom. They all came out of this unassigned queue up at the top. We've got 2 people here, 2 people there, and 2 people in room number 3. They're all good to go. I can rename the rooms, do all that cool stuff. I can add more rooms if I want to, and then I can balance it back out, reassign people. I can recreate the rooms from scratch, or I can blow them away and not have any rooms. And then if I go back up to assign participants, I have that same modal we had before, right? So I've got the ability to move Alex to room number 2 and put Miriam in room number 3 and hit assign. And you'll see these numbers will change across the bottom right here as well. I can still hear you, Andy. I'm not sure why you can't hear me.
I can hear you now.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I got
Hopefully there's
turn
no
my
echo coming through with I had to put you on a separate speaker. I lost Bluetooth connectivity. I have no idea
Oh,
what's going on there.
dude,
So
mine got really staticky. I've got to replace this audio cord because like you're super staticky in my ears right now, but I'm just
mm.
gonna go with it. Oh my gosh. Freaking I swear audio is the worst part about like video production and live streaming stuff. It's the most important thing, but it's also the hardest thing. Tony says there's no echo. So thanks, Tony. I appreciate it. Thanks for sticking with us. Um, so I've reassigned people. I've moved them around inside the rooms. Now, what what else I like about this? I'm going to do one more thing. Is I go into the settings. I can put a time limit on it. So I'm making these rooms early. I'm going to put like a 9-minute timer because I don't know why, and I can even delegate the presenters. So I'm going to like give this also to Alex. He's going to be kind of my co-presenter. Set that up. Okay, it's changing the options. Those are baked into the team meeting now. And then like Andy was talking about way earlier, like an hour ago. Andy was saying, hey, if you want to record these meetings, but you're like locked down in your policies, what you'd have to do is you have to join each of those breakout rooms and start the recording for the participants. Well, what you can do with this new breakout room pre-creation is if you click on the settings for a room, it opens up your Microsoft Edge browser to the meeting options for that breakout room. So whenever this loads up, you can turn on the option for record automatically. So if I click on this, I'm going to hit record automatically and hit save. I'm going to do that to the other two rooms here. So while that's going, open up these settings, go back, open up these settings. And see, I've got 3 tabs open up here at the top. So tab number 2, turn on auto recording and hit save. Tab number 3, auto record and save. I mean, I kind of wish I could do this like from one click, but hey, this is better than joining the meetings. We got everything here. Now, if I join this meeting, I'm going to get everybody into the meeting. Let's push them all out and watch the recording happen automatically. So I'm going to start the meeting up. I've done all my pre-assignments. You do this like days in advance, right? And then it comes time for your class. You're done at that point. So Megan has joined. I'm going to go into here and I'm going to prompt everybody else. So join. This is going to sound like the worst sound in my ears because all these little ringtones are going to be all staticky and overlapping. Oh man, this sounds like a bad NES game. It's like super staticky. There we go. All right, so all these people are going to join. Join. This sounds like garbage 8-bit audio. Okay, so we're getting everybody in here. And back over to Megan. So everybody's in the meeting. Megan's in there. I don't know why Nestor is my video, but Megan's going to hit the breakout rooms. And when this loads up, I'm going to hit open. It should push everybody out to their respective rooms and automatically start recording. So we're going to hit open. And they're all opening one at a time. Although Adele's not opening because Adele didn't join the meeting. Adele, what are you doing? Get in here. I joined a meeting on every single app. My VM downstairs in my basement is just like screaming so loud. my server rack.
I'm running my VM in Azure.
Are you? Yeah. So you got
letting it burn up the data.
You don't have to worry about cooling. So all those rooms are open. Let's flip over to, there's Miriam. She is in room number 3. And there you go. It automatically started recording. It's got a 9-minute timer counting down. It gave her the banner saying that it's recording. Miriam and Nestor are now in the meeting together. And there you go. So that shows, there's Adele. Come on, Adele. Okay, watch her video. So she's going to lift her hand up here in a second, and she's going to sneak a chip. Just watch. Watch the left hand. Here she goes. She's nodding. Oh, she's reaching. Oh, come on. There we go. There, she's going for the chip. There it is. I love this video. It's ridiculous. All right, so that shows that from the calendar. Oh my gosh, I'm in Alex's thing right now. So you can see that like from the calendar in Teams, you're able to manage these breakout rooms now before the meeting even starts. And now Megan had like this super clean experience by going in, like doing her configuration days in advance. Then whenever she comes back in for like the day of the class. All she's got to do is hit open and everybody goes off to their respective place. And it auto recorded because you have the meeting options available to you. So that was the last thing that I wanted to show Andy. And I think we're about ready to bring this audio train wreck to a to the station.
People ask us all the time about our gear, and every time we add something to the audio portion of it, these are the things that happen. These are
Mhm.
the you're adding to the complexity of that workflow, and who knows what broke at that particular point. I mean, the Bluetooth just completely dropped. It worked for an hour and 40 minutes, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden we're getting ready to go into a demo, and it breaks. So thanks for
Yeah.
taking the lead
I'm
on
gonna
that
switch
on that
back
last
over to
part, which
my
is probably the
Bluetooth.
part everybody was most interested in, of what's actually new, and the new interface for pre-assignment, but also delegating other participants to help work with the assignment of breakout rooms. When you're working with up to 300 people in a session,
Mhm.
having somebody to help you delegate and assign people and put them in the rooms, and being able to do that ahead of time really is so much better than what we've dealt with, which is basically log into the meeting early, scramble, and try to get the rooms created. And then when everybody starts joining, scramble and try to get everybody into the correct room. That eats up time in
Mhm.
the meeting. So you have to schedule additional time to the meeting ahead of time. So having some features like this is going to make life so much better, especially for technical training scenarios. So
Yeah.
I
It'll
am
make people
very
feel more in
happy.
charge, you know?
Yes.
I love that.
And I'm very happy that these features are here and they're GA, and I can please don't take them away. Microsoft, don't tease us. I've seen some features roll out, and then like the next week I come back and like, oh, sorry, we're just joking, JK. We're gonna go ahead and pull that back from you. So I'm really excited that this is actually here now, and it's going to be, from a technical training standpoint, so much better. I
Mhm.
think one thing we need to make sure that we mention, so we demoed and we talked about breakout rooms in private meetings. We talked about how they work in the web browser in addition to the
Mm.
desktop. But these also work in channels. So you can use breakout rooms as part of channel meetings as well. And breakout
Mhm.
rooms work as part of your webinar experience. So you can host a webinar, and you can use a breakout room inside of a webinar as well. And they work with reoccurring meetings also. So you can schedule reoccurring meetings and use breakout rooms in those reoccurring meeting sessions as well. So gives
Yeah.
you a whole bunch of options for working with them moving forward.
Yeah, and in those reoccurring meetings, you can actually you don't have to make the breakout rooms every time. It'll be retained. Who was assigned to what room will still be retained. You can just open the rooms again at the next recurrence, and you don't have to like reinvent the wheel every time. So um, they're pretty powerful. They've come a long way. I think, like the chat said earlier on, if we could just make it so that the rooms are available and optional and people pick what they want to go to, I feel like this feature would just be like totally rounded out if you could make like a
Yeah.
mini conference out of it. I feel like that they'd be done, at that point. So super
I
cool
was just thinking
features.
about this while we're kind of bringing it home.
Mhm.
When we started this, we mentioned, there were some features we're going to talk about today that pretty much like brought the breakout room experience where we wanted it. And it was, at the time I was struggling to think like, what would I want next? But I just had an epiphany, and something that I would like to see in the future is not only taking like the pre-assignment and putting that together. I would also like to
Mhm.
be able in the future to pre-populate a room with like maybe content. So if I'm doing technical training and maybe I'm moving you through a couple of different rooms, I would like to have some materials and things already in that room. So when the session goes live, everything that you need is already there. With the way that
Mhm.
the creation of the meeting and then the breakout rooms works today, you can create the main meeting and you can provide materials, your pre-meeting experience, use the files tab, upload whatever you want ahead of time. But for the actual breakout rooms themselves, we don't have the ability to pre-populate it with content. So that would be something I would be interested in the future, here's a room, and let me go ahead and attach some files to the room, some handouts, some exercises,
Mhm.
things like that. I think that would be something that I would like to see in the future. So I'll try to get a hold of the product team and provide that feedback, or maybe they're listening.
Yeah,
So
maybe.
yeah,
Maybe we'll have a new user voice we could we could start using at some point too. So next time on whatever we should like maybe figure out a name for this someday on
what are we gonna break
our
this
deep
time?
dives with John and Andy. Um, Next time uh we were talking on Monday, like, what do you want to do for November? What about December? We were thinking for November, what if we do this on the Monday of Thanksgiving? So that'd be like what, the November 22nd, I think is what it is. And
Mhm.
what do you guys think about doing live stream equipment? What we use, what we've used in the past, and what's going to be on sale for Black Friday and Cyber Monday that we would recommend or that we want to try for ourselves. Like maybe we're going to buy some stuff for ourselves. That's what we were thinking about doing for November as we kind of coast into the end of the year. Let's talk about no, it won't necessarily be Microsoft specific, but like it's going to be a good opportunity to like kit out your home office and do some awesome stuff to your home office to kind of bring your audio and video quality up quite a bit in your live events and your meetings. So let us know in the chat, leave a comment if you're watching this after the fact. If you think that sounds like a good topic, that's kind of what we were thinking about doing. And then if you've got any ideas for, um, you know, end of year, early next year, or future live streams, what other things do you want to hear about? Let us know in the chat or let us know in a comment if you're watching this after the fact. We'd love to hear what you guys want to talk about.
Yeah, let us know what you want us to try and break, because we have a lot of fun really diving into all the knobs and switches and trying to think outside of the box and find some workaround for some scenarios. So
Mhm.
I personally like playing Stump the Instructor. So if there's something out there that you're interested in and we can do it, yeah, we're game. We'll definitely try it.
Sounds good, man. All right, cool. Well, thanks everybody for watching again. Really appreciate it, especially if you stuck with us through our audio snafus. It was a fun time. Maybe we'll have it figured out by next time. I think I'm going to switch platforms probably to Ecamm Live. Try that, but then something else will probably go wrong. So, um, thanks again. I hope you guys have a great weekend and stay safe. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.